Okay, let's get right into it. From cutting-edge agricultural science over in South America to some seriously advanced tech hubs in southern India, we're seeing a flurry of recent events that might seem disconnected at first glance. But honestly, they actually form a really distinct three-part blueprint for India's economic future. So in this explainer, we're going to unpack the specific mechanisms driving one of the world's largest economies forward using the absolute latest data. So this macroeconomic blueprint really breaks down into three main pillars for us to look at. First, securing the digital frontier. Second, eco-growth and global agribusiness. And third, future finance and infrastructure. Let's get started.
All right, moving right into part one, securing the digital frontier and protecting both data and citizens.
Think about your own digital footprint for a second. As an entire economy digitizes at this kind of unprecedented scale, you really have to ask yourself, how do you actually build a strong data ecosystem, keep it transparent, and keep people safe from fraud all at the exact same time? Because let's face it, it's a massive balancing act. Well, one answer they've come up with is the GoIStats app, which just launched for Statistics Day 2025. And what it does is actually brilliant in its simplicity. It literally democratizes data. It gives everyone, from high-level policymakers down to everyday citizens like us, an interactive dashboard right on our phones. Through these dynamic visuals, anyone can now track vital socioeconomic indicators. We're talking GDP, inflation, employment, the whole shebang.
But, ultimate digital access brings the very real threat of digital crime. Enter the Financial Fraud Risk Indicator, or the FRI. This is a highly targeted tool mandated by the Reserve Bank of India, and it actively flags mobile numbers as medium, high, or very high risk for financial fraud. That means banks and UPI providers can actively shield their customers from scams before a transaction even has the chance to go through. It's a real game changer.
And global tech is absolutely aligning with this security push. Following their recent safety charter, Google opened its new Safety Engineering Center in Hyderabad on June 19, 2025. And this isn't just a standard local office, guys. It's Google's very first safety engineering center in the entire Asia-Pacific region and literally only their fourth in the world. It acts as a strategic hub dedicated entirely to responsible AI and protecting users from online fraud.
Okay, let's shift gears to part two, eco-growth and global agribusiness. Basically, how they're powering and feeding the globe sustainably.
So, when it comes to powering all this growth, India now ranks third globally in power generation capacity expansion over the last 5 years, sitting right behind China and the US. But here's the real takeaway. It isn't just about the sheer volume of power, it's the source. Solar energy alone has accounted for over half of India's non-fossil investments in just the past 5 years. That is huge.
And this changing environment is heavily impacting global agricultural markets. Now, you might traditionally associate India with tea, right? But their coffee exports have quietly boomed to a staggering $1.8 billion. To put that into perspective, that's a 125% rise in just over a decade. Major buyers across Europe, the Middle East, Korea, and Japan are just eagerly scooping it up. This $1.8 billion surge is largely driven by a massive production engine concentrated in the south, specifically Karnataka, Kerala, and Tamil Nadu. Thanks to the sustained output from these three states, India now produces 3.5% of the world's coffee, ranking fifth globally in total exports. Not bad for a country mostly known for tea, right?
But here is where it gets really interesting. They aren't just exporting traditional crops anymore. They are exporting the cutting-edge science of farming itself. Take nanofertilizers. Basically, these are plant nutrients enclosed in materials that are 100 nanometers or smaller. And this microsizing is crucial because it allows for a controlled, incredibly slow release of nutrients directly into the soil. It massively reduces environmental waste compared to those traditional bulk fertilizers we're used to.
And India is taking this tech and scaling it globally. Building on some world-first innovations back in 2021 and 2023, the Indian Farmers Fertilizer Cooperative Limited recently announced plans to set up its very first overseas nano-fertilizer plant over in Brazil. It's honestly a perfect example of an economy shifting from just exporting crops to actually exporting the agricultural science that grows them.
All right, bringing us to part three, future finance and infrastructure. Let's look at how they are financing and housing this modern economy.
Now, with climate change directly impacting both agribusiness and infrastructure, managing financial risk is absolutely essential. So as of July 2025, India has been actively exploring what are known as CAT bonds, or catastrophe bonds.
These are pretty dense, hybrid financial instruments that combine features of insurance and debt. They essentially allow governments to transfer the financial risks of natural disasters, think cyclones, floods, that sort of thing, directly over to global investors.
So let's break down the unique risk-reward scenario these create, because it's pretty fascinating. On one hand, if a defined disaster does occur, investors lose part or all of their principal, and those funds are immediately injected into relief and reconstruction for the country. But if no disaster occurs during the bond's term, those investors get their full principal back, plus some exceptionally high interest. So the investors take on the risk for a high reward, while the country essentially secures a vital safety net.
Alongside those innovative bonds, India's market regulator, SEBI, is doing the critical housekeeping required to keep their markets clean and attractive to those investors. In late 2025, they launched the VSEF settlement scheme. It's basically a vital, one-time regulatory window designed to resolve compliance issues for older venture capital funds. By settling these long-pending closures, they are proactively protecting investor interests.
And the actual physical and financial heartbeats of this entire new economy, they're taking shape heavily in the state of Gujarat. First, you have the Dholera Special Investment Region, which is a greenfield smart industrial city focusing deeply on advanced manufacturing and semiconductors. It's already drawing high-level international delegations. And then there's GIFT City, India's sole international financial services center. It's rapidly becoming this massive magnet for global institutions, with major international banks actively setting up units right within its borders.
So from nano-fertilizers in Brazil and AI safety hubs in Hyderabad, all the way to disaster bonds and smart semiconductor cities, the pieces are moving incredibly fast. As these individual threads of digital security, sustainable agriculture, and advanced finance weave together, we are left with one critical question to wrap up this explainer. How will this interconnected blueprint entirely reshape global market dynamics over the next decade?